Alright, boils and ghouls, or ladies and gents for this one. I'm feeling in a comedy mood. I had Hatchet 3 and Victor Crowley on in the background while playing some music earlier, just to prepare for having Parry Shen on tomorrow, and he is hilarious, so I'm in a comedy mood, so why not talk one of my favorite comedies of all time, Clue, from 1985. Now, this is another movie that I know every fucking line to this movie. There's going to be a lot of quoting the lines in this video. But this is a movie that I've been watching since I was a kid. And before I had cable or anything in my room, I just had a VHS player. And I used to just leave in the same tape for weeks at a time. And there's a lot of movies. I did The Clue, Lost World Jurassic Park was one of them. Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. There's probably another reason why I love that movie so much. Halloween. It goes on and on. But there was maybe a dozen or two VHSs that I completely wore out because I need something to fall asleep at night. I need sound. So either music or I need TV or a movie in the background. And that's what I would do every single night. But the cast for this movie is absolutely unreal. We have Tim Curry as Wadsworth, a.k.a. Mr. Body. We find out in one of the endings, which is another thing I love about this, the multiple endings. This is, I think, one of the first movies to do that, to ship different endings to different theaters. And you'd see the movie, and then you talk to your friend and say, isn't that crazy that Miss Scarlet was the killer? And they'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Miss Peacock was the killer. It would have been fun to see this movie in multiple theaters when it came out, just to see the different endings. But Tim Curry, he has like over half the lines of dialogue in this movie.
No, communism was just a red herring.
And he absolutely destroys. We have Madeline Kahn as Mrs. White. Madeline Kahn is just an icon. Her improv in this movie is absolutely hilarious.
You weren't jealous that your husband was stripping Yvette. That's why you killed him, too.
Yes, I did it. I killed Yvette. I hated her so much. Flames on the side of my face, breathing, heaving breaths.
We have Mr. Green, played by Micah McKean. I didn't do it. Christopher Lloyd as Professor Plum. Leslie Ann Warren as Mrs. Scarlet. Eileen Brennan as Mrs. Peacock. It's just an all-star cast here. And then we have the woman who plays Yvette. You don't want to see how Yvette's actress looks today compared to the movie. We also have Lee Ving in here, and this is obviously based off the board game. So for some reason you haven't seen Clue from 1985, stop this video right now, go on YouTube. I'm pretty sure it's free on there because that's how I'm watching it. I didn't pay for this shit. And watch it. Then come back and we'll talk Clue. For those who have seen Clue, let's talk some Clue. I forgot Colonel Mustard, Martin Mull, right? That was I knew I was forgetting one of the main characters. Martin Mull, too, is just excellent in everything. First of all, the score, all of it. The opening theme here, the music near the end when they're all running around the mansion, and Tim Curry's trying to explain everything that happened to them. All the music by John Morris is fantastic in this movie. This movie's directed by Jonathan Lynn, who went on to do My Cousin Vinny, and the script, I did not know this until a few years ago, was co-written by the director and John Landis, which I had no clue, pun intended, that John Landis co-wrote the script for this movie. I've been watching this my entire life, just found it out a few years back. And this movie is produced by the great Deborah Hill, which that I knew. The humor in this movie is just right up my alley, but I could see it being a little dry and on the nose for some people.
Is there a little girl's room in the hall?
Oui, madame.
No, I just want to powder my nose.
But, man, the way that this script is written, it is written so well. Little jokes here and there that you don't pick up on the first few times, maybe, even that you watch this movie. But we have Wadsworth arriving to this mansion. And let me say this, and this is set in the 50s. This set is a spectacular looking set. Like, I always thought this was an actual mansion they shot in for years and years and years and years. It's actually a set that they shoot on. But the fact that this mansion is a set That's unreal, because the way that they film this movie and the camera work and everything makes this really feel like they are inside an actual mansion. Like, what great usage of a set. Now, two little interesting bits of trivia for this movie. Carrie Fisher was supposed to play Mrs. Scarlet, and she had to go into rehab for for addiction issues that she was having at the time. And she was trying to work it out so that she would be able to still work on the project. And Leslie Ann Warren was like a last-minute replacement, which, I mean, I love Carrie Fisher, but I can't picture this movie without Leslie Ann Warren. And two, here's something I didn't know, and another addiction-related thing. Eileen Brennan, Mrs. Peacock, this was her first movie out of rehab for a painkiller addiction. She ended up becoming addicted to painkillers from a car accident like a few years before that. So she had to go through rehab to get detoxed off, and then this was her next project. And it says that her running around the house trying to keep up with everybody at the end was like the hardest thing about filming this movie. So I thought those two little tidbits was interesting. I love how Wadsworth walks in to this mansion and he steps on the dog shit, and he doesn't realize for mad long, and as the guests arrive, they smell the shit, but they don't know where it's from. That's a great gag in and of itself, like just an opening gag like that. I love the fact that all the characters, they drive the same colored cars as their names. That's another great touch. The whole cast chemistry in this movie is fantastic, but I really love the dynamic between Mrs. Scarlet and Professor Plum. Something about the way Leslie Ann Warren and Christopher Lloyd play off each other, and the way that like he's constantly flirting with her throughout the movie, and she's kind of flirting back, but then like smacks him and stuff. All of that's great, and he ends up picking her up, and then they stop and they look at the mansion, and he says, "Why's the car stopped?" He says, "It's frightened." The music cue, that's great. Love the cook hits the loudest gong for dinner. Yet, as soon as she hits that gong, Mr. Green jumps and spills his drink on Miss Peacock. As soon as she rings it, the next shot is her walking like past the door in the hallway. So that means the gong is right outside the door. So there's no need for her to be ringing this loud-ass gong with all the guests in the same room, right inside the room right next to her. Then they're sitting at dinner. They're sipping the soup louder and louder. Like it's a competition against Mrs. White, Mr. Green. They're all slurping on their soup. That's funny as shit, too. Then Miss Peacock trying to break the ice. She goes on this whole rambling rant. And everyone's just staring at her. I mean, it's got to be so awkward. And this is where Mrs. Peacock fucks up. In the endings, or endings, that she killed somebody. Or multiple people. Where she says this is one of her favorite recipes. And monkey's brain, though popular in Cantonese cuisine, is not often to be found in Washington, D.C. So they all get acquainted, and they all find out that they all live in Washington, D.C. Except for Professor Plum, and this is such a great little joke here that goes unnoticed all the time. When he says that he works for United Nations, he works for UNO, and then he says, I work for a branch of UNO, the World Health Organization. That's WHO. So you know who. I don't know how many people got that joke when this movie came out, or the first time, or second, or third time even that they saw this movie. So Mr. Body arrives and admits he's the one that's blackmailing all of them.
This is ridiculous. If he was such a patriotic American, why didn't he just report us to the authorities?
He decided to put his information to good use and make a little money out of it. What could be more American than that?
Love how he goes through how everybody's being blackmailed. Professor Plum got naughty with one of his patients, got his license revoked. Mr. Green comes out and says, I'm a homosexual. And Wadsworth is looking through his notes, like, bewildered, because that's not the secret that he was going to say. So he's looking through his cards like, he doesn't know what to make of that. Mrs. Peacock taking bribes for her husband, who's a senator, and that Miss Peacock had like meetings in a men's room to take the money, the bribes for the senator, her husband. And then Miss Scarlet comes in with this great setup for Mrs. Peacock to rebut. I'd say it stinks. Oh, how would you know? When were you in that men's room? Mrs. White going on about her husbands and that they're all dead or they disappeared. She says, like, I don't think he seemed to like me very much. He threatened to kill me in public. I think she meant he threatened in public to kill her. But that was your second husband. Your first husband also disappeared. Well, that was his job. He was an illusionist, but he never reappeared. He wasn't a very good illusionist. Like, Madeline Kahn might have the best lines in this movie next to Tim Curry. Like, everything she says is just golden. So Mr. Body goes to get the present for the guests, and they each open it up, and they all have a lethal weapon. They got the rope, the candlestick, the wrench, the gun, the lead pipe. Am I forgetting one? I don't think so. And then says, we can just have one of you guys kill Wadsworth now. We all walk away, and that's it.
The only way to avoid finding yourselves on the front pages is for one of you to kill Wadsworth. Now.
Mr. Body, when the lights turn on, he's on the ground. He seemingly gets shot. And now they got to figure out who killed Mr. Body, with what, and where. Because he doesn't technically die here in the study. Okay. When Mrs. Peacock takes a drink of the brandy, then they're trying to figure out Mr. Body died. And Professor Plum says,
Maybe he was poisoned. Mrs. Peacock, it's all right. It's all right. You don't know anything. Sit down. Sit down, Mrs.
that smack sounds so real. It sounds so effective. It really sounds like he slapped her hard in the face. It's so loud. I had to stop her screaming. And I just love Mr. Green, just how sure he is that he didn't do anything through this whole movie.
I didn't do it!
Even if you're not looking at ending C, or the ending when they all kill somebody except for Mr. Green, and he works for the FBI. If you take just the first two endings, he doesn't work for the FBI. He's just Mr. Green. But he's still so adamant that he didn't do anything. And I love all of that. Like, how are we going to figure out which of you did it? What do you mean, which of you did it? Well, I didn't do it. The way he defends himself is just fantastic. So then the cook gets killed, so they got 2 murders on their hands. Dinner wasn't that bad. Then we have Yvette with the rest of them. So that way, she's in no danger, even though her ass gets murdered. And Mr. Body's body is missing. And then it ends up coming out of the bathroom where someone stuffed it, scaring the shit out of one of them. And then Wadsworth starts screaming.
That's what we're trying to find out. We're trying to find out who killed him, and where, and with what.
There's no need to shout.
I'm not shouting! All right, I am. I'm shouting! I'm shouting! I'm shouting!
No, I'm cruising through a lot of this just because we'd be here for hours if we were going through every gag. Earlier, when Wadsworth is giving his really sad story, and his wife was friends with socialists, and Mrs. White comes over, she's crying, gives him a fucking handkerchief or tissue. When he says, well, to make a long story short, and Colonel Mustard goes, too late, and then they repeat that later on, any time that I hear, to make a long story short, my entire life, that's my reply always. Too late. Always. If you say those words around me, you will get the reply too late. Then Colonel Mustard finds out that Wadsworth had the pictures, the negatives of him with Yvette at Mrs. Scarlett's whorehouse in Washington, D.C.
Oh, no. Nobody can get into that position.
Sure they can. Let me show you.
Get off me.
And then the driver shows up, whose car broke down, who we find out later worked for Colonel Mustard in the war. Let him stay locked up for another half an hour. The police will be there by then, and there are 2 dead bodies in the study. Shh. And then again, Madeline Kahn killing it at the end of a little bit here. When they're in the library, and Colonel Mustard is treating this like war, and he's saying, are you sure that there's nobody in this house?
Wadsworth, am I right in thinking there is nobody else in this house?
No.
Then there is someone else in this house.
No, sorry. I said no, meaning yes.
No meaning yes? Look, I want a straight answer. Is there someone else, or isn't there? Yes or no?
No.
No, there is, or no, there isn't?
Yes.
Please!
All of that is hilarious. And then the way that Madeline Kahn ends it with the please, and she throws the glass and it breaks in the fireplace. Then they have to draw straws. So they have like matchsticks or whatever. They cut them up to match, to see who your partner is, to go exploring this mansion. And they have to go from the top level down with the biggest straws down to the smallest. I love Professor Plum goes up to Miss Peacock. It's you and me, honey bunch. And Yvette with her tits out the whole movie. But it is dark upstairs and I am frightened of the dark. Will anyone go with me? I will. No, thank you. Because he's gay, Mr. Green. Another thing that's cool is the secret passages in the mansion, but in the set here. It's cool that they built those. And and Colonel Mustard, you have no idea how many times I fucked up saying Colonel or Professor or Mister or and then getting it wrong with whatever character name is afterwards. But Colonel Mustard and Miss Scarlet end up, after going through the secret passage, they're stuck in the study with the dead driver.
I'm just gonna have to break it down.
They can't get out, and they're let us in, let us out. And then Yvette goes, she shoots, what a good shot, man. She shoots the chandelier first, but she gets 2 shots right into those locks and opens the door. And then the chandelier crashes, scares the shit out of Colonel Mustard. Let me say another thing. The bell that rings, an old-fashioned doorbell. The tone of everything of this specific doorbell, if someone played the sound for me, I'd know instantly it's from Clue. Just the sound of the bell. Someone rang this exact bell, Clue. Then the cop shows up, and he's on Mrs. Scarlet's payroll, and they lock him in the library. And then they get a call from J. Edgar Hoover. And I love the joke a little later, when, near the end, in one of the endings, when they say, yeah, but is the FBI, used to cleaning up after multiple murders? He says, of course. What do you think it's ran by a man named Hoover? The whole sequence with Mr. Green showing the cop around, and they're pretending to make out with the dead corpses to the Crew Cut Shaboom, which devotees will know and recognize the song from the trailer for Christine 2, Drag Race Me to Hell. And then the other guy, the driver, he's dead, he's in the chair, they poured whiskey or some type of alcohol all over him. This guy's drunk. Dead drunk. Dead right. You're not going to let him drive home, are you? He won't be driving home, officer, I promise you that. And then this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. When Tim Curry meets back up with the cop, and he thinks that he's in so much trouble. That this cop, saw everything, and he's about to get busted for murder. And he starts saying, no, everything's fine. He's like, this is America.
Officer,
You're too late. I've seen it all.
you have? I can explain everything.
You don't have to.
Are you sure?
Of course, this is America.
I see.
It's a free country. Don't you know that?
I didn't know it was that free.
The way he says, I see, Tim Curry, that cadence, it's brilliant. Da-da-da-da-da-da, I am your singing telegram. And now we have 6 murders, and Wadsworth says, I know who did it, and I'm going to tell you how it was all done. And just the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes of this movie, I mean, yes, there's the 3 endings, but all of it is just perfect acting. From Tim Curry especially, but everybody else too. But especially Tim Curry. I'm pretty sure that he said this is one of his favorite movies of his, and favorite performances of his. And I can see why, because this guy had a shit ton of dialogue to remember.
At the start of the evening, Yvette was here by herself, waiting to offer you all a glass of champagne. I was in the hall. I know because I was there. Then I hurried across to the kitchen. And the cook was in here, alive, sharpening knives, preparing for dinner. And then...
All of that music is just... It fits the movie so well. It fits the whole explanation so well, with Tim Curry running around room to room. What great writing for the composition, writing it to the scene for the movie. But he goes through the whole explanation.
Sorry, didn't mean to frighten you. You're a bit late for that.
Hate when he does that.
And then we get the 3 endings.
Why?
To create confusion.
It worked.
We have ending A, where Miss Scarlet's the killer, and she loves secrets. And Yvette, who worked at her little brothel, found them all out for her from everybody. And she's going to go continue on blackmailing them. Then they have the whole great scene back and forth with how many bullets are in the gun.
Not so fast, Miss Scarlet. I do have a secret or two.
Oh, yeah, such as?
The game's up, Scarlet. There are no more bullets left in that gun. There was one shot at Mr. Body in the study, 2 for the chandelier, 2 at the lounge door, and 1 for the singing telegram.
That's not 6.
1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1.
There was only one shot that got the chandelier. That's 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1.
Even if you were right, that would be 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1, not 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1.
Okay, fine. 1 plus 2 plus 1. Shut up!
And then there is a bullet. And it shoots the chandelier and falls and crashes behind Colonel Mustard. I think that might be my favorite ending. The one with Miss Peacock, it's fun. I mean, like I said, the whole line earlier about her at dinner.
You made one fatal mistake. Sitting here at dinner, Mrs. Peacock told us that she was eating one of her favorite recipes.
And monkey's brains, though popular in Cantonese cuisine, are not often to be found in Washington, D.C.
That's cool. The whole FBI outside, it's good. It's my least favorite ending out of the 3 of them.
For she's a jolly good fellow, for she's a jolly good fellow, for she's a jolly good fellow, which nobody can deny, which nobody can deny, which nobody can deny. For she's a jolly good fellow, for she's a jolly good fellow, for she's...
Then we have the final ending with every single one of them killing somebody, except for Mr. Green.
I told you I didn't do it.
Who is a plant, not a fruit. And Wadsworth is Mr. Body, who's been blackmailing everybody. Pun intended.
So it was you. I was going to expose you.
I know. So I choose to expose myself.
Please, there are ladies present.
And yeah, I know every fucking line out of Tim Curry's mouth for the entire explanation scene. I don't know what internet prize that wins me, but whatever. But I do like the last ending because it does make sense with why each person killed who they did. Professor Plum killed the telegram girl because it was her patient. But I like how all of that also fits the other endings because these people still informed on them to Mr. Body and gave their secrets away. So there's still the link between them no matter whether they killed them or not. Now then, Mr. Green pulls the gun out, shoots Mr. Body, Wadsworth. That was a good shot, Green. Very good. And then the FBI comes in. The chief of Mr. Green says, all right, Chief, I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife. End credits. Now, there was a 4th ending. I'm pretty sure they shot it, but it was never released. Or maybe it is somewhere on YouTube. But I'm pretty sure it was Mr. Body getting eaten by the dogs, the vicious dogs here that we see earlier in the movie. And then they thought it was a little too dark, and that's why they didn't release it. Or film it. I'm pretty sure they did, though. Now I'm going to have to look this up after this. One of my favorite comedies of all time. I'm pretty sure this was like my 6th film of all time on my list. That's how much I adore this film, if you could not tell from this video. Clue from 1985. It's an absolute comedic masterpiece. So, alright guys, I'm going to try to get Rabid. I really want to rewatch Rabid now, since that's been winning the poll. Maybe in the afternoon, late afternoon tomorrow. And then 7 o'clock tomorrow night, we got Parry Shen from the Hatchet series, Victor Crowley, Shrieker, an old Full Moon picture. I know some of you, like Larry, Horror Cat, you're a Full Moon guy. General Hospital, a whole bunch of TV shows, little roles and stuff like that. And voice acted Takeda for Mortal Kombat 10 and Mortal Kombat 1, the newest game, and other games that I had no idea. Sleeping Dogs, which is a fantastic game. Ghost of Tsushima, Far Cry 3. Like, he's done some voice acting for some great games. So I am beyond excited to talk with him. I hope you guys are there. Hope you got some questions maybe you want to ask him, because it will be a blast. So, hope everyone has a good night. I will talk to you guys soon. Take care, everybody. 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. No, that's not right. There's only one that got the chandelier. That makes it 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1. Even if you were right, that'll be 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. Even if you were right, that would be 1 plus 2. That would be 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1, but not 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1.
Would anyone care for fruit or dessert?